Lisa Park sat in her chair at the communications station, watching the endless flow of data across her screens. It was 3 in the morning, ship time, and most of the crew aboard the Deep Space Monitoring Station, Cerberus, was asleep. Lisa liked the quiet hours. The silence of space felt peaceful when she didn't have to listen to her crewmates arguing about sports or complaining about the food. She was halfway through her coffee when something strange appeared on her screen. A signal, weak and broken, coming from somewhere far beyond human space. Lisa frowned and adjusted her equipment. The signal was definitely artificial, but it wasn't human. The mathematical patterns were all wrong. Lisa pressed a button and called her supervisor. "Commander Harrison, you need to see this." Jake Harrison arrived 10 minutes later, still putting on his uniform. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been running deep space monitoring operations for 12 years, and nothing much surprised him anymore. But when he saw the signal on Lisa's screen, his eyes went wide. "Where is this coming from?" he asked. "Sector 77 Alpha," Lisa replied. "That's way outside our territory. I've never seen anything like this pattern before." Jake studied the screen. The signal was definitely not human, but it wasn't random noise either. Someone or something was trying to communicate. "Wake up Dr. Stone," he ordered. "We need the linguistics team on this right now." Dr. Alex Stone was not happy about being woken up at 3 in the morning, but his attitude changed quickly when quickly. He saw the signal. Alex was the best xenolinguistics expert in the fleet, a short man with thick glasses who could decode alien languages faster than anyone else alive. He stared at the screen for a long time without saying anything. "This is incredible," he finally whispered. "It's mathematical, but there are emotional markers embedded in the code. Whoever sent this is scared." For the next 18 hours, Alex and his team worked without stopping. They filled 3 whiteboards with equations and symbols, drinking coffee and arguing over every detail. Lisa stayed at her station, recording everything and trying to pull more data from the weak signal. Finally, Alex looked up from his work with a pale face. "Commander, you need to hear this." The team had managed to translate the core message. Alex played it back through the computer's voice system, and the translated words filled the room with cold fear. "To anyone who receives this message, we are the colony of the 4th planet in the Zeteri system. Our world is under attack by the Hegemony Empire. They have destroyed our defenses and are killing our people. We are a peaceful species with no military forces. We cannot fight back. Please, if there is anyone out there who believes in mercy, help us. Our children are dying. We have perhaps 3 days before our species is extinct. These coordinates will guide you to our world. We do not know if anyone will receive this message, but we pray someone will care." The room went silent. Lisa felt sick to her stomach. Alex removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. Commander Harrison stood frozen, staring at the screen. "How far away are they?" Jake asked quietly. 12 days by hyperspace jump," Lisa answered. "But Commander, that's way outside our patrol zone. We don't even have maps of that sector." Jake was already reaching for his communicator. "Get me Admiral Miller, emergency priority." Admiral Kate Miller was not someone who made decisions quickly. She was a careful woman who thought through every angle before acting. When Jake's message reached her at fleet headquarters, she immediately called an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. The council chamber was full of arguing voices. General Pete Walsh slammed his hand on the table. "We can't get involved in alien wars. We just finished fighting the Zephyrians. Our ships are damaged, our crews are exhausted, and our resources are stretched thin. These colony people are going to be wiped out," argued Dr. Helen Ross from the Science Division. "They're asking for help. Doesn't that mean anything?" It means they're not our problem, replied Colonel Frank Moore. We don't even know who these hegemony people are. What if they're stronger than us? What if helping the Kelani brings them to Earth? The argument went on for hours. Some council members wanted to send a diplomatic message. Others wanted to ignore the signal completely. A few suggested sending just one ship to investigate. Captain Ryan Foster had been quiet through most of the meeting, but finally he stood up. Ryan was young for a fleet captain, but he had earned his rank fighting the Zephyrians. He had scars on his face and hands that told the story of battles where humans were outnumbered but refused to give up. I've been listening to all of you argue about politics and resources, Ryan said, but you're missing the point. These people are dying right now while we sit here talking. They sent out a cry for help to anyone who would listen. They don't know us, but they trusted that somewhere in the galaxy, someone would care enough to help. Ryan walked to the center of the room. My grandfather used to tell me stories about the old wars on Earth. He said the worst thing wasn't when bad people did bad things. The worst thing was when good people did nothing. We didn't claw our way off a death world just to watch others burn. The room fell silent. Admiral Miller looked around the table at each council member. We need to vote, she said. All in favor of sending a rescue mission? The vote was close. 7 in favor, 5 against. Admiral Miller nodded slowly. Captain Foster, you'll lead the mission, but I can only give you a small force, 12 ships maximum. Ryan saluted. That'll be enough, Admiral. I hope you're right, Captain. Because if you're wrong, you might be leading your crews to their deaths. Ryan smiled grimly. Ma'am, we're humans. Going into impossible situations is what we do best. As the meeting ended, Admiral Miller pulled Ryan aside. Why are you so sure about this? She asked. Doc Ryan looked out the window at the stars. Because somewhere out there, innocent people are dying, and they asked for help. If we ignore that, then what's the point of being human? 3 hours later, Ryan was aboard a transport heading for Titan Station, where his fleet was being assembled. He carried with him the translated Kelani message and star charts showing their location. He also carried something else, the knowledge that humanity was about to announce itself to the galaxy in a way no one would ever forget. The Kelani had called for help, and the Deathworlders of Earth were coming. Captain Ryan Foster stood on the observation deck of Titan Station, watching his fleet come together. Through the massive windows, he could see ships arriving from different parts of human space. Each vessel carried volunteers who had heard about the mission and wanted to help. The heavy cruiser UES Vengeance was the first to arrive. It was Ryan's flagship, a powerful warship with thick armor and heavy guns. The ship had fought in 6 major battles during the Zephyrian War and never lost a fight. Captain Danny Reed brought his destroyer Phoenix next, followed by Captain Nicole. Grant with the Reaper. Both ships were fast and deadly, built for hit-and-run attacks. Ryan watched as the frigates Storm, Falcon, Thunder, Blade, Arrow, and Hammer took their positions around the larger ships. These smaller vessels were the backbone of the human fleet, tough and reliable ships that could fight above their weight class. Finally, the support ships Mercy, Hope, and Guardian arrived, carrying medical supplies and repair equipment. Chief Engineer Megan Torres was already hard at work in the station shipyards. She was a small woman with strong hands and a sharp mind who could fix anything that flew. Megan had been modifying human ships for 15 years, always finding ways to make them faster, stronger, or more dangerous. Captain Foster, she called out as Ryan entered the engineering bay. We've got a problem. These ships weren't designed for a mission this far from home. We need to upgrade their jump drives and add extra fuel tanks. Ryan nodded. What about weapons? Megan smiled. That's the good news. I've been working on some new toys. Kinetic accelerators that can punch through any known armor. Plasma torpedoes that burn at 10,000 degrees. And something special I've been saving for the right moment. She led Ryan to a covered workstation and pulled away a sheet. Underneath was a weapon that looked like a giant rifle barrel surrounded by power cables. Particle beam cannon, she explained. It fires a stream of charged particles at nearly the speed of light. One shot can cut a battleship in half. How many can you install? Ryan asked. 1 per ship, if we work around the clock. But Captain, these weapons draw enormous power. Using them will drain the ship's reactor for several minutes. Ryan studied. The weapon. Sometimes you only get 1 shot. Make sure it counts. While Megan worked on the ships, Dr. Nathan Cross briefed the crew commanders in the station's main conference room. Nathan was the fleet's xenobiologist, a tall man with a beard, who had studied alien species for 20 years. He had never seen a Kelani before, but he had analyzed their message carefully. The Kelani appear to be a peaceful trading species, Nathan explained. Their message suggests they have no military technology and little understanding of warfare. They're probably similar to early human civilizations before we developed weapons. Captain Reed raised his hand. What about these hegemony aliens? Nathan's expression darkened. Based on the Kelani description, the hegemony is a conquest empire. They appear to view warfare as entertainment and take pleasure in destroying weaker species. They've been expanding for centuries, consuming entire civilizations. How do they fight? Asked Captain Grant. Unknown. But the Kelani message suggests they have overwhelming numbers and advanced technology. They've never encountered serious resistance before. Intelligence Officer Sam Wright stood up next. He was a quiet man who had spent years studying enemy tactics. I've been analyzing the star charts from the Kelani message. The hegemony fleet is probably massive, maybe 200 ships or more. We're going to be outnumbered 20 to 1. The room fell silent. Finally, Captain Reed spoke up. So what's our plan? Ryan stood and walked to the front of the room. The plan is simple. We jump into the system, assess the situation, and if the hegemony is still attacking civilians, we stop. Them? Sir, said Captain Grant, how do we fight a fleet that size? Ryan smiled grimly. The same way humans always fight when we're outnumbered. We use our heads, we use our courage, and we make them pay for every inch. Navigator Julia Blake had been studying the star charts for hours. She was a young officer with sharp eyes and a talent for finding safe routes through dangerous space. Captain, she said, I've plotted 3 possible approach vectors. We can come in from the edge of the system and stay hidden until we're ready to attack. Good, Ryan replied. We'll need every advantage we can get. The fleet spent 6 days preparing for the mission. Crews practiced combat drills until they could reload weapons and repair damage in the dark. Pilots ran simulator battles against overwhelming odds. Medical teams prepared for heavy casualties. Ryan spent his time visiting each ship, talking to the crews. He found the same thing everywhere: fear mixed with determination. These people knew they might not come home, but they were going anyway, because it was the right thing to do. On the UES Vengeance, Gunner Amy Chun was checking the new particle beam cannon. Captain, she said, this weapon is incredible, but it's also dangerous. If we miss our shot, we won't get another chance. Then we don't miss, Ryan replied. Fighter pilot Eddie Martinez was training his squadron on the Reaper. Sir, my pilots are ready. We've practiced kamikaze attacks in case we run out of ammunition. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Ryan sighed, but he was proud of their dedication. On the final day, Ryan called all the ship captains together for one last meeting. In a few hours, we'll jump to the Kelani system. We don't know what we'll find there, but we know why we're going. Somewhere out there, innocent people are dying, and they asked for help. He looked around the room at each captain. The hegemony has been bullying peaceful species for centuries. They think nobody will stand up to them. They're about to learn. What happens when you threaten the innocent while Deathworlders are watching? Captain Red nodded. What are our orders when we arrive? Ryan's voice was ice cold. If the hegemony fleet is still there, if they're still attacking civilians, we give them one chance to surrender. If they refuse, we show them why Earth breeds warriors. The meeting ended, and the captains returned to their ships. As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Ryan stood on his bridge and thought about the Kelani message. Somewhere 12 light years away, people were dying and hoping for rescue. All ships report ready for jump, announced the communications officer. Ryan nodded. Take us to the Kelani system. Time to show the galaxy what humans do when someone calls for help. The stars stretched into lines as the human fleet jumped toward their destiny. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kelani system, and what they saw made everyone fall silent. Captain Ryan Foster stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, staring at the nightmare before them through the main view screen. The Kelani homeworld was surrounded by ships, hundreds of them, arranged in perfect formations around the blue and green planet. They were unlike any vessels the humans had ever seen, with dark hulls covered in spikes and strange symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. Dear God, whispered Navigator Julia Blake. There are so many of them. Tactical Officer Ben Parker was already counting. 237 enemy ships, Captain. Most of them are larger than our biggest vessel. Ryan could see fires burning on the planet's surface, even from their position millions of miles away. Debris fields floating in space told the story of destroyed Kelani ships that had tried to defend their world. Long-range sensors showed landing craft moving between the alien fleet and the planet below. Are they still attacking? Ryan asked. Yes, sir, replied sensor operator Tim Rooks. I'm detecting energy weapons firing at the surface. They're not just conquering the planet. They're destroying everything. Ryan felt anger building inside him like a fire. These aliens weren't just winning a war. They were enjoying the slaughter of innocent people. Open a channel to the enemy fleet, he ordered. Communications officer Linda Hayes worked at her console. Sir, I'm getting a response from their flagship. It's that massive ship in the center of their formation. The main screen flickered and changed. A face appeared that made several crew members step backward in fear. The alien looked like a giant, lizard standing upright, with red eyes and teeth like knives. Its skin was covered in scars, and it wore armor made from bones and metal. I am Admiral Vextar of the Hegemony 4th Fleet, the creature said in a voice like grinding stone. You are in territory claimed by the Hegemony Empire. Identify yourselves before I destroy you. Ryan stepped forward so the alien could see him clearly. I am Captain Ryan Foster of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are attacking innocent people. I order you to stop your assault on the Kelani immediately and withdraw your forces from this system. Vextar stared at Ryan for a moment, then began to laugh. It was a horrible sound, like metal scraping against metal. Terran? I have never heard of your species. You must be another primitive race from some backward world. The alien admiral walked closer to his own screen, and Ryan could see trophies hanging from his armor. Skulls from different species, each one representing a world that had been destroyed. Tell me, human, how many ships do you have? 10? 20? 12, Ryan answered honestly. Vextar laughed even harder. 12 ships against my fleet of over 200? This is amusing. I will make you an offer, little human. Surrender now, and I will let your crews fight captured Kelani in gladiatorial combat for my entertainment. It will be more interesting than simply destroying your pathetic vessels. Ryan's voice remained calm and cold. I have a counter-offer. You have 60 seconds to begin withdrawing your forces from this system. This is your only warning. The alien admiral stopped laughing. Warning? You dare to threaten me? I have conquered 47 worlds. I have destroyed entire species for my amusement. What makes you think 12 primitive ships can challenge the might of the hegemony? Because, Ryan said quietly, you made one mistake. And what is that? Vextar sneered. You hurt innocent people while Deathworlders were watching. The alien looked confused. Deathworlders? What are Deathworlders? Ryan smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You're about to find out. He turned to his communications officer, cut the transmission. The screen went black. Ryan looked around his bridge at his crew. Every face showed the same expression, cold determination mixed with controlled fury. These people had seen the burning planet and the bone trophies on the alien's armor. They knew what kind of monster they were facing. All ships, Ryan announced over the fleet channel, weapons free. Battle stations. Show them what humans do to bullies. Across the 12 human ships, crews moved with practiced efficiency. Gunners loaded the new particle beam cannons. Fighter pilots climbed into their cockpits. Engineers rerouted power to weapons and shields. Medical teams prepared for casualties. On the destroyer Phoenix, Captain Danny Reed watched the enemy fleet begin to move. They're surrounding us, reported his tactical officer. Classic encirclement maneuver. Let them come, Danny replied. They've never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of. Captain Nicole Grant on the Reaper was studying the enemy formation. Look at how they're moving, she told her crew. Perfect formations, no improvisation. They're used to fighting enemies who run away. The hegemony fleet began advancing in a massive wall of ships, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Admiral Vextara's voice echoed across all frequencies. Surrender now, humans, or watch your ships burn. Ryan Foster stood on his bridge, watching the enemy approach. His crew looked to him for orders, and he could see fear in some of their eyes. But he could also see something else. Trust. They believed in him, and more importantly, they believed in what they were doing. All ships, Ryan said calmly into his communicator. Remember why we're here. Those people down on that planet are counting on us. Their children are hiding in shelters, while monsters destroy their world. We came here to stop that. He paused and looked out at the approaching alien fleet. The enemy thinks we'll run because we're outnumbered. They think we'll surrender because they're stronger. They don't understand that humans don't back down from bullies. We fight harder when the odds are against us. Chief Engineer Megan Torres reported from the engine room. All weapons are charged and ready, Captain. Particle beam cannon is online. Thank you, Megan. Ryan took a deep breath. All ships, this is Captain Foster. We are humanity's first ambassadors to this part of the galaxy. Let's make sure they remember us. The hegemony fleet was almost in weapons range now. 237 ships against 12. Any reasonable species would have run or surrendered, but humans weren't reasonable. They were Deathworlders. Fire, Ryan ordered. The first human shots lit up space like deadly lightning. The U's Vengeance fired its new particle beam cannon directly at Admiral Vextar's flagship. The beam of pure energy cut through the alien ship's shields like they were made of paper and earned a hole clean through the massive vessel's armor. Alarms screamed across the hegemony fleet as the aliens realized they were actually under attack. These humans hadn't run away or begged for mercy. They had opened fire on a fleet 20 times their size. Captain Ryan Foster watched the enemy flagship stagger from the hit. All ships, Attack Pattern Delta. Target their command vessels first. The human fleet split into 3 groups and attacked from different directions. The destroyers Phoenix and Reaper flanked wide to the left and right, while the frigates charged straight at the enemy center. It was a move no sane commander would make against overwhelming odds, but humans weren't sane. They were angry. Captain. Danny Reed on the Phoenix spotted a hegemony cruiser firing on the planet below. Weapons officer, target that ship. Nobody shoots at civilians while we're here. The Phoenix's guns fired in sequence, sending shells the size of cars into the alien ship. But instead of normal ammunition, Chief Engineer Megan Torres had loaded something special. Each shell contained a small nuclear warhead that exploded inside the enemy vessel. The hegemony cruiser broke apart in a ball of fire. Direct hit, shouted the weapons officer. Target destroyed. But Danny wasn't finished. He ordered his helmsman to fly directly at another enemy ship, using the Phoenix's engines to superheat a nearby asteroid. Ram that rock into their hull, he ordered. The superheated asteroid slammed into the hegemony destroyer at thousands of miles per hour. The alien ship's armor melted on contact, and the vessel spun out of control, crashing into 2 of its own ships. Captain Nicole Grant on the Reaper was fighting 3 enemy ships at once. Her vessel was faster and more agile than the alien ships, but she was still outnumbered. They're trying to surround us, her tactical officer warned. Then let's give them something to think about, Nicole replied. She ordered her crew to launch every missile they had, but not at the enemy ships. Instead, the missiles flew into the debris field from the destroyed Kelani vessels. The explosions turned floating wreckage into thousands of high-speed projectiles. The improvised shrapnel cloud tore through the hegemony ships like a steel hurricane. 2 alien vessels were destroyed instantly, and the 3rd was so damaged it had to retreat. On the Vengeance, Ryan watched his small fleet tear into the enemy formation. The hegemony ships were larger and more heavily armed, but they fought like they expected their enemies to be afraid. They had never faced an opponent that became more dangerous when cornered. "Sir," called Tactical Officer Ben Parker, "the enemy is trying to reform their battle line. They're not used to this kind of fighting." Ryan could see the confusion in the alien fleet. They were used to enemies that fled when faced with superior numbers. The idea of 12 ships attacking over 200 seemed impossible to them. Fighter pilot Eddie Martinez launched from the Reaper with his squadron of 6 small fighters. The hegemony had fighters too, but their pilots flew in perfect formations without creativity or improvisation. Eddie's pilots flew like Earth pilots had always flown, with controlled chaos and deadly precision. "Listen up," Eddie told his squadron over the radio. "We're outnumbered 50 to 1. That means each of us gets to shoot down 50 enemy fighters. Try to save some for the rest of us." The human fighters dove into the enemy formation like hungry sharks. They used tactics the aliens had never seen before: diving attacks from above, coordinated strikes from multiple angles, and something the hegemony couldn't understand: pilots who had sacrificed their own ships to destroy larger targets. Eddie's fighter took too much damage to keep flying. He didn't eject. Instead, he aimed his crippled ship at a hegemony cruiser and rammed it at full speed. The explosion took out the alien ship's main weapons array. "Martinez is down," reported another pilot, but he took their big gun with him. The battle was turning into something the hegemony had never experienced before. They were winning by numbers, but they were paying a terrible price. Every human ship they destroyed took 3 or 4 alien vessels with it. Chief Engineer Megan Torres had won. More surprise. She had been saving power in the Vengeance's reactor, storing energy for a single massive shot. "Captain," she called from the engine room, "I can give you 1 shot with everything we've got, but it'll drain our power for 10 minutes. Ryan looked. At the enemy flagship, still burning from their first hit, but still fighting. Admiral Vestar's ship was the largest vessel in the alien fleet, and as long as it survived, the hegemony would keep fighting. "Do it," Ryan ordered. Megan rerouted all power from life support, shields, and engines directly into the particle beam cannon. The weapon charged with so much energy that the lights dimmed throughout the ship. Every system except weapons went offline. "Firing!" shouted Weapons Officer Amy Chun. The beam that erupted from the Vengeance was 10 times more powerful than their first shot. It struck the Hegemony flagship dead center and burned completely through the massive ship from front to back. For a moment, the alien vessel hung in space, held together only by its outer hull. Then Admiral Vestar's flagship exploded. The explosion was so massive that it destroyed 2 other hegemony ships that were flying too close. Burning wreckage scattered across space, and for the first time in the battle, the alien fleet stopped advancing. Across the hegemony formation, something had changed. These aliens had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never lost a flagship before. They had never seen an enemy that fought with such fury and determination. On the surviving alien ships, crew members looked at their screens in shock. The humans were supposed to run. They were supposed to beg for mercy. Instead, they had destroyed the most powerful ship in the fleet and were still fighting. Some hegemony captains began to retreat without orders. Others tried to rally for another attack, but their formation was broken. The careful battle plan that had worked against dozens of other species was falling apart against 12 human ships. Ryan stood on his bridge, breathing hard. The Vengeance was running on emergency power, but they were still alive. Around him, his crew worked by the light of emergency lamps, trying to restore their systems. "Status report," he called out. "Phoenix is heavily damaged, but still fighting," reported Communications Officer Linda Hayes. "Reaper has lost main engines, but guns are still working. 3 frigates are destroyed, but the others are holding their positions." Ryan nodded grimly. They had lost good people, but they were winning. The impossible was happening. 12 human ships were defeating a fleet 20 times their size. And across the galaxy, other species were watching and learning that sometimes, when evil thinks it has won, Deathworlders fight back. The destruction of Admiral Vestar's flagship sent shockwaves through the hegemony fleet that went far beyond the physical explosion. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the alien empire was watching one of their fleets break apart against impossible odds. Captain Ryan Foster stood on the emergency-lit bridge of the U.S. Vengeance, watching enemy ships scatter in all directions. Some tried to flee toward the edge of the system. Others attempted to regroup around their remaining command ships. But their perfect formation was gone, replaced by chaos and fear. "Open a channel to all hegemony vessels," Ryan ordered. Communications Officer Linda Hayes worked at her damaged console. "Channel open, sir." Ryan's voice echoed across space to every surviving alien ship. "This is Captain Foster of the Terran Defense Fleet. Your admiral is dead. Your flagship is destroyed. This is what happens when you prey on the innocent. Withdraw now or join your admiral in death." The response split the alien fleet down the yard. Middle. 30 ships immediately turned and fled toward hyperspace, their captains unwilling to face the humans who had done the impossible. But 70 ships remained, their commanders either too proud or too angry to retreat. The largest group of survivors rallied around a massive battlecruiser commanded by General Krathvar, Vestar's second in command. The alien general appeared. On screen, his scaled face twisted with rage. "You killed Admiral Vestar," he snarled. "The hegemony does not forgive. We will destroy every one of your ships and then burn your homeworld to ash." Ryan looked at the alien commander with cold eyes. "You're welcome to try." The remaining hegemony ships charged at the human fleet in a desperate final assault. But something had changed in the last hour of fighting. Word of the battle was spreading across the galaxy in real time, carried by automated communication networks that neither side could stop. Intelligence. Officer Steve Logan intercepted dozens of transmissions. Captain, the whole galaxy is watching. This fight. Species that have been hiding from the hegemony for generations are sending messages of support. The Kelani aren't the only ones who want these aliens stopped. As if summoned by hope itself, new ships began appearing at the edge of the system. Kalani vessels that had been hiding in deep space, thought destroyed, emerged from behind asteroids and moons. They were small ships with weak weapons, but their crews had found courage watching 12 human vessels fight an entire fleet. As Prime Minister Zalith of the Kelani Republic came a transmission from the largest of the arriving ships. We stand with the humans who answered our call for help. The Kelani ships joined the battle, their plasma weapons adding to the human firepower. They weren't strong fighters, but their presence changed everything. The hegemony was no longer facing just 12 human ships. They were facing an alliance of species willing to fight back. Captain Danny Reed on the damaged Phoenix Coordinated with the Kelani vessels. His ship could barely move, but its guns still worked. Kelani ships, target their engines. We'll hit their weapons. Let's end this. The final phase of the battle was swift and brutal. The human ships, supported by their new Kelani allies, tore through the remaining hegemony forces with methodical precision. Every alien ship that refused to surrender was destroyed without mercy. General Krathvar made one last desperate attempt to ram his battlecruiser into the Vengeance, but Captain Nicole Grant intercepted him with the Reaper. Her damaged destroyer collided with the alien ship in a massive explosion that lit up half the system. When the flames cleared, the battle was over. Of the original 237 hegemony ships, only 23 remained, and all of them were fleeing toward hyperspace. The human fleet had lost 4 ships and hundreds of crew members, but they had one. Dr. Nathan Cross immediately began coordinating with Kelani medical teams to help the wounded on both sides. Rescue shuttles flew between the ships, carrying injured crew members and supplies. The Kelani were amazed that the humans treated even enemy wounded with care. Your people fight like demons, but heal like angels, Prime Minister Zalith told Ryan during their first face-to-face meeting aboard the Vengeance. The Kelani leader was a tall, graceful being with silver skin and large eyes that showed deep intelligence. "We fight to protect the innocent," Ryan replied. "That includes everyone, even our enemies." But the real impact of the battle was just beginning. Within hours, news of the human victory spread across the galaxy through trade networks and communication. Arrays. Species that had lived in fear of the hegemony for centuries were sending messages to human space. The Draxi Republic wanted to establish trade relations. The Vorthan Commonwealth offered military alliance. The Crystalline Collective sent mathematical poetry, expressing their joy that someone had finally stood up to the bullies. Intelligence. Officer Steve Logan was overwhelmed by the flood of incoming transmissions. "Captain, we're getting contact requests from 47 different species. Everyone wants to know more about these Deathworlders who defeated the hegemony. Most importantly, reports were coming in from across hegemony space. Their forces were retreating from multiple star systems, as local species found the courage to rebel. The empire that had seemed unstoppable was collapsing under the weight of its own cruelty." Ryan stood in his quarters, looking out at the stars and thinking about what had happened. They had come to save one species and accidentally started a galactic revolution. Earth would never be alone in the universe again. Chief Engineer Megan Torres brought him the final damage report. "We can make it home, Captain, but it'll take time to repair everything. The good news is the Kelani want to help. They're offering to upgrade our technology in exchange for defense agreements. And the crews? Ryan asked, tired, wounded, but proud. They know what they accomplished here. Every one of them volunteered to stay and help rebuild the Kelani Defense Forces. Ryan nodded. He would write his final report when they reached Earth, but he already knew what it would say. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not as conquerors or traitors, but as protectors. They had proven that mercy and strength could work together, that someone would always answer when the innocent called for help. As the Vengeance prepared for the long journey home, Ryan made one last log entry. The Kelani called into the void, expecting silence. Instead, they found that somewhere in the darkness, Deathworlders were listening. Today we learned that the galaxy is full of species waiting for someone to give them hope. We're just getting started. The human fleet departed the Kelani system. 3 days later, escorted by grateful alien vessels and carrying messages of friendship from dozens of worlds. Behind them, they left a rebuilt planet and a galaxy that would never be the same. The Deathworlders had answered the call, and the universe had taken notice.